Uh-oh, Matt's wearing a hat and standing in front of the bookshelf background again. This must mean it's time for another serious discussion about literature.
This is,
Next book on the favorites list is Paper Towns. That's not all.
Say hi.
Good morning, viewers. It's September the 1st, and you know what that means. Hundreds of students from all across the UK are currently riding a train with an atmosphere of high expectation to their first day at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And so I thought that in honor of another year of learning, I would talk about the Epilogue. You know which epilogue I'm talking about. The release of the final installment of the Harry Potter series was met with an atmosphere of high anticipation. For 10 years we'd grown up with this story, and we couldn't wait to find out how Harry was going to defeat Voldemort, who was going to end up with who, and just in general how things were going to tie together at the end. Perhaps the most highly anticipated aspect of this story was the epilogue, the very final chapter that outlined how all the characters ended up. This epilogue had actually been written for some time and had been kept under lock and key, and was the speculation of many Harry Potter fans for at least 3 or 4 years. Ironically, this has become one of the most hated aspects of the Harry Potter series. I, however, am part of a very small minority of people who actually liked the epilogue. Not only did I like it, but I feel that it is a completely necessary aspect for the full closure of the series. And today I'm going to tell you why, and probably the first video I've made that the majority of my subscribers will disagree with. Who thought this would be a good idea again? Oh, by the way, this really should go without saying since I'm talking about the end of the Harry Potter series, but, spoiler alert. So let me begin by addressing probably the most frequent complaints I've heard against the epilogue. Complaint number 1, it gives too much information / it doesn't give enough information. Now, I know that these arguments might sound contradictory at first, but they actually are related to each other, interestingly enough. These are the people who either really didn't want to know what happened to the Harry Potter gang 19 years later, or the people who felt like J.K. Rowling was teasing us and should have given us more information, or the people that are just kind of conflicted about how they feel. My argument to this is that J.K. Rowling was providing us with a snapshot, one moment in time in Harry Potter's life 19 years later. And so, much like the rest of the series, she's only going to tell us what is necessary for us to know in that scene. So she's not just going to break off and say, Harry's working for the RO department now. Hermione's got some job, I think, in magical law enforcement that I can't remember. She didn't do that throughout the rest of the series. Why should she start now? Complaint number 2. What is complaint number 2? I don't remember anymore. Complaint number 2. It's too happy. Okay. The epilogue is a little hokey. Yeah, it's the typical they all lived happily ever after ending. But the thing is, it isn't really. Look at the last words of the book. The last words of the book are, all was well. Now, that's not to say that all was going to remain well, or that all was going to be well forever after. All was well at the time, which it was. Moreover, I would say again, we've been reading this series for 10 years. We've grown up with Harry and Ron and Hermione and the rest. Don't you think we deserve a happy ending? I think so. And here's the thing, once again, this is a snapshot. There might be worries and troubles and concerns and stresses outside of this scene, but we don't need to know about them. Also remember that this scene takes place 19 years after the defeat of Lord Voldemort. I mean, were there troubles and concerns after Lord Voldemort was defeated? Of course there were. There were Death Eaters to round up, there were people to mourn, there was a wizarding world to heal and lead into a new age. Of course there were worries and concerns. But 19 years later, people have finally healed, and that is what J.K. Rowling is interested in showing us in this scene. And complaint number 3, it's unnecessary. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Let me tell you why. Last year when I reread the Harry Potter series, I reread it kind of analyzing Harry's story against the hero's journey archetype. The 17th and final step of the hero's journey is called Freedom to Live, and according to this website that I found, it reads like this. Mastery leads to freedom from the fear of death, which in turn is freedom to live. This is sometimes referred to as living in the moment, neither anticipating the future nor regretting the past. Sounds an awful lot like the epilogue to me. Here's the thing, J.K. Rowling could have very easily ended the story after chapter 36. Voldemort's been defeated, that's what this series has been building up to for 10 years. The story could have ended there. But the story was not over yet. Like I said before, there were still things to do, things that needed to be done, a lot of healing that needed to be done. But those aspects of the story are not the interesting aspects of the story, so J.K. Rowling isn't going to show them to us. Instead, we skip ahead to 19 years later when all of that healing has taken place, and we see Harry living the kind of life that he always wanted to live throughout the whole series. A normal and contented one. After 19 years of healing, Harry has that freedom to live that he has always wanted. Sometimes even more so than the defeat of Lord Voldemort. So it has to be happy and it has to be contented and almost hokey in a way. Because to show any kinds of troubles or concerns would completely undermine the point of the scene. Harry gets what he wanted and his story is finished. And this, I think, is the main problem, the real problem that people really have with the epilogue. It says, in no uncertain terms, that the story of Harry Potter is over. We don't want it to end. We want it to keep going. We want to keep reading about Harry Potter. But this epilogue closes off any loose ends that there might possibly be. There isn't going to be a book 8. There aren't going to be any more tales about the boy who lived. It's done. It's over. And I won't lie to you, I sometimes wish that that wasn't the case. I wish that I could read more stories about these people. But I think that J.K. Rowling shows a lot of bravery in ending the series here, even though fans don't want her to. She could very easily keep writing story after story after story, and they would steadily get worse and worse and worse, which is what always happens when authors bow to the pressure of their fans and keep writing for a story that should have ended. And this epilogue doesn't allow for any backpedaling, and I think that's why people reject it. So that's my defense of the epilogue. Prove me wrong. If you have a reason for not liking the epilogue that I didn't address in this video, tell me about it in the comments. And I know that not everybody is going to agree with me, but can we at least all agree that, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not worth getting that upset over? See you next time. Complaint number 4. Albus Severus is a stupid name. I can't really argue with that one.